Welcome, movie fans. Thanks for joining us for episode 124 of Reading Between the Reels, the premier podcast of blaming Anakin for literally everything. If you're a new listener, we're so glad you found us. If you've been enjoying the show, please like, follow, and subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. You can also support the show by posting on your socials and by joining our Facebook group. I'm Craig Dickinson, and today on the show, it's part 3 of my ongoing attempt to turn English class into Jedi Council meetings, featuring my students and 2 very special guests, Jeff McGee and Tom Gross, who know a thing or two about bad decisions in the galaxy far, far away.
Who do you think the hottest character is, like in the main 2 trilogies, and why?
Like, you mean physically,
Just
I assume?
yeah.
Okay, well, see, I'm weird in that when I was a kid, like everybody had the hots for Princess Leia, but I never did. I just didn't think of her that way. So I don't really think of people in Star Wars in that way for whatever reason. But I will say, I think Daisy Ridley is beautiful. I think I can't think of her name, the actress who plays Mon Mothma, but of the original trilogy, it would obviously have to go with Princess Leia. But to be honest, I probably get the biggest crush on Han Solo. I've had a man crush on him my whole life. What about you? Who do you think?
I would think Padme's the hottest personally.
That's fair. That's fair. Can't argue with that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. What's your opinion on the Darth Jar Jar theory?
I think it's interesting, and I think it would have been very interesting had that been something that George Lucas wanted to do. But I think it's probably not accurate. But I like it, but I don't think it's real, but I do love it. Do you like it?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting theory. It's definitely fine that it's not there, and you can definitely see as you watch the film, it's like it could have led up to that, it didn't, and that's totally fine. Thanks.
Exactly. Yeah. Cool. I like your glasses.
Thank you.
Okay, when I first heard of a version that was where Luke and Leia weren't siblings at all, I was kind of confused. Like, what do you think made George change it so that they were?
I think that George,
Like,
and he
what
can
was
say
the
all
point
he,
of it?
yeah, I think the point of it was it got Luke out of the way so that she and Han Solo could be together, which is what should have happened. And B, I think he was just trying to build out the Skywalker clan or the Skywalker story a little more. Do you like it? What do you think about it? Did you like it when you found out they were brother and sister, or do you think it's kind of weird?
I think it was a really big twist that Darth not only had 1 but 2 kids. I feel like that's a really big thing. I thought it was also quite strange. Like, small world, I guess. Small worlds.
And it also seemed weird to me that he's right in front of Leia the whole time and can't figure out through the Force that they have some sort of connection.
Also, like, if he know the whole time? Because
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think he knew until Return of the Jedi when he says, "Sister, you have a twin sister." Yeah, I think it adds to the story, but I think it could have been handled a lot better. Is that kind of where you fall on it?
Yeah, it's just kind of strange.
Especially after they locked lips in The Empire Strikes Back, right?
Just a huge twist, yeah. Oh, main character, their father.
Right. I agree. Hey, good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
What are your biggest critiques on both the Disney Star Wars and the original Star Wars franchise?
Oh, okay. So my biggest, you mean criticism, like the things that trouble me the most about them? Okay, well, with the Disney Star Wars, I actually like most of what has come out. My biggest critique is the fact that up until recently, every show has been named after a person, and I would rather them just tell us what's going to happen in the story, because you call a series Andor, and every scene doesn't revolve around him. It confuses people. But other than that, I like it. I just wish they would make more movies. I'm tired. I like watching stuff at home, but I miss movies. And of the original, all the George Lucas stuff, I'm of the age that the prequels just didn't really work for me. So I would have preferred to have had Attack of the Clones be the first movie in that trilogy, and us spent more time watching him grow into Darth Vader. What about you?
Well, I think I see video essays on the troubles with the Disney Star Wars and all the shows, but all those also see in the original Star Wars. All those critiques I see in the original Star Wars.
Exactly, right?
So but they're like, oh yeah, but the original movies are great, which they
Right.
are, but like
But
this.
that is intellectually dishonest, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad you're seeing that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good call. Good call. Thank you.
By trying to destroy the dark side of the Force will create an unbalance, causing the Jedi to be too powerful and changing the Force forever.
George Lucas answered that once. He said balance means that there is no dark side. So, but I think if we look at what happened with the Jedi, if you go back way into the lore before the movie started, the Jedi got rid of the Sith, and then we saw what happened to them. They got really full of themselves, got a lot of hubris and everything. So I think you're right. I think not having anyone to fight made them complacent. So maybe you're right. Yeah, maybe you're right. Is that what you think?
Yeah.
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 Sure, right? Sure, why not, right? Cool.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. If you could remove one major event that happened, what would it be? Like in any movie?
Oh, probably it would be most of what happened in episode 1 in The Phantom Menace. I think all the thing with the trade routes and everything, I think it just doesn't work, and it doesn't fit with the rest of the story, and it doesn't feel like a Star Wars movie. So that's what I would pick. I would just remove that whole storyline about the trade routes and taxation and everything. What about you?
Probably that. That makes
Okay.
sense.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. I like the choreography going on in the back there too.
Hi.
Hi.
So, how do you think Han Solo's and Princess Leia's relationship has changed now that Luke has come out as Leia's twin?
Latest one. Oh, well, how far into the movies are you guys? What have you guys watched before? I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, 1 through 6.
1 through 6. Okay. So that's good to know. They obviously end up together. I'm assuming you guys haven't seen the rest. Have you seen The Force Awakens and the ones that are up on the screen behind you? Okay. So you know that they had a kid, things went south. But I think that I like to think that they would have figured out a way to make it work, but I also know that Han Solo is pretty bullheaded and Princess Leia is pretty focused on the rebellion. So I'm thinking that they probably just did never find a whole lot of time for themselves at home.
Mhm.
What do you think?
Well, I'm not too sure because it's I understand that they have a kid and it's two separate. They have different
Priorities?
goals. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I was just wondering what you thought about it. So,
Yeah, I think they would have had to work hard to make it work, but I know they both wanted to, but
Mhm.
obviously something happened and they didn't.
Mhm.
Yeah. Good question.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Hey.
Hi.
I was gonna ask, why didn't the other Jedis get mad at Anakin for killing Count Dooku, even though it was against Jedi way?
Why didn't they get mad at him for doing it?
Mhm.
I don't know that they didn't. B, I think they probably would have had they not had the Emperor not tried to kill them all. But yeah, I think at that point they probably should have because it wasn't the right thing to do. But I think everything was just so messed up that nobody knew what was right or wrong anymore. What do you think?
I wouldn't have gone mad at Anakin because it's pretty justified. So
It's true. It could be justifiable because of what he had done with the separatists and everything. So yeah, good call. All right,
thank you.
cool. Sure.
Do you think if Anakin got the position and the power he wanted on the Jedi Council, do you think he'd still have turned to the dark side?
Probably because Anakin's real problem to me is control issues. He has to be in control of everything. He has to be in charge of everything. He doesn't like when other people are doing things.
Yeah.
So I think honestly it was only a matter of time, and I think that it might have actually been worse because he would have been able to really infiltrate the entire Jedi Order that way if Palpatine had been using him as kind of like a sleeper agent or something.
Yeah.
That's what I think. What do you think?
I think he would have too, because that
He was scared
power
of losing
was.
Padme and everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was terrified of that. So yeah, good call.
Thank you.
Welcome.
What was your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is The Empire Strikes Back because it's the first movie that I ever saw. It's the first movie I remember seeing in a movie theater. That's how old I am. My brother took me to see it. And when Han Solo said, "Laugh it up, fuzzball," I laughed so long that my brother actually got mad at me, got annoyed with me. And I actually have "Laugh it up, fuzzball" tattooed on my right arm in Arabesh, which is the written language in Star Wars. So that's why it's my favorite. What is your favorite?
Probably A New Hope.
A New Hope. Why is that? What do you like about A New Hope?
I don't know. I think just like the this beginning of it, just like
It's fun. It's a fun movie. Yeah, I think A New Hope is probably the best of the original trilogy. Even though Empire is my favorite, I think A New Hope is probably the best one. So good choice.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Hi.
Hi.
My question was, do you think people would have still liked the movie if Darth Vader wasn't Luke's dad?
I think so. I don't know that it would have that it would have had as much lore grow up around it. But honestly, that's to me, that's not the main thrust of the story. I think it makes it more interesting, but I think it would have still been just as popular. But I don't know that that was so huge in 1980 when it happened. Like we had never seen like a twist like that before. So I think more than anything, it changed the way movies were made from that point forward. What do you think? Do you think it helped, or do you think that was what made people love it, or do you think it would have been okay without it?
I think it just depends because people who like big plot twists like that, I think it'd be more exciting. But if you're just fine with like battling in space, I don't think it would have mattered.
Exactly. It would still be fun, but it may not mean as much to people. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good call. Good question. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
My question was, do you think that Anakin was being selfish when he turned to the dark side, or do you think that it was for a good cause since it was for Padme?
I think he convinced himself that it was for a good cause, that he was being selfless, but at the end of the day, it's all about selfishness. The dark side is all about power, getting what you can get, taking what you can take. So I think he had fooled himself into thinking he was doing it for someone else, but at the end of the day, he was really being really selfish and doing what he wanted so that he could have what he wanted. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he was being selfish because
Yeah,
he just did it, I think, because for like the power that he could possess and like being able to save her from dying. But if he did really love her, I feel like he would have just spent all the time he could with her up until
ex-
her last time.
exactly. Exactly. I like your earrings, by the way. Those are awesome.
Thank you.
Sure. Good question.
Hi.
Hi.
So my question was, do you think that the time that Luke found out about Anakin or Darth Vader being his father would have determined his mental state if he stayed on the good side or went to the dark side? And do you think it would have changed his outlook about Jedi if he found out about it earlier?
Like if he knew, like growing up, if he knew all along. Oh, I think if he had known as a little kid, he would have already been killed because we can see that Luke, as a teenager at the beginning of the first movie, he can't keep his mouth shut about anything. He would have been telling everybody, "Hey, Darth Vader's my dad. You better not pick on me." So I think he probably would have probably been picked up by the Empire before then. But if that hadn't happened, I think he would feel a lot of shame about it, and I think he does feel a lot of shame at the beginning. And I think he spends a lot of the rest of the rest of the saga trying to make up for it. I don't know. What do you think, though? That's a really good question.
I feel like that because like at the end when he did find out, was like more heroic about it. Like he felt like the duty to go confront his dad about it and all that stuff.
Right.
But I feel
Yeah.
like if he knew from a young age, he would have thought about it way more and he might have like had the same mentality as his father.
That's a good point. He might have justified everything in his head, right?
Mm.
Yeah. Good call. Good point. That's a good one.
Thank you.
Why can't the Jedi tell who Darth Sidious is?
Because Darth Sidious is more powerful than them. That's the thing about the dark side that we learn, is that the dark side is easier to wield, and it's easier to wield with power, and it's easier to cloud things, but it also takes you over a lot faster and a lot easier. So I always assumed that the Emperor just had so much dark side power that he was masking all of it. Like they knew somebody was there, but they couldn't tell who. What do you think? Is that kind of what you were going with, or what do you think?
I think it was just for like the lore, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And plus, the Jedi weren't looking for him because they were full of themselves too. So yeah, good question.
Hi.
Hi.
Why do you think that Han doesn't believe in the Force?
I think Han starts out not believing in the Force because Han is one of those people that if I can't touch it, it's not real. It doesn't exist. He likes to like lean on himself and depend on himself and his wits. So he says, if I can't see it, it doesn't exist. I think it's easier for him. He does come around though by the end because he said you notice at the end he tells Luke, "May the Force be with you."
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think about that? Do you think it's just his experience, or what do you think?
Well, he just doesn't seem like the type to believe it unless he's like experiences it.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to prove it to me first. He's one of those kind of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question.
Hi.
Hi.
Do you think Anakin still fulfilled the prophecy at the end of Empire Strikes Back? No, Return of the Jedi. Sorry. Do you think he still
How
fulfills
dare
the
you?
prophecy?
I think he and Luke fulfilled the prophecy because again, George Lucas came out and said that is putting the Force back in balance. He's killed the Sith. There's only the light side left. So I believe so, but I don't think that's necessarily how it was supposed to happen.
Mhm.
What do you think? Do you agree?
I think he did eventually at the end. Plus, I don't know. It's like, well, you still have to have some light and some dark. I don't know. It's like
It's weird, right?
like
Yeah, you
equally
think balance, you
balanced
would
or
think they would be equally balanced. But according to
yeah,
George Lucas, if it's balanced, that means there's all light and no dark.
yeah.
So who knows? Good question.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
what are your thoughts on Padme and Anakin getting married in secret? Was it a good thing or bad thing?
Oh, I think first of all, I need you to put those sunglasses down over your eyes because those are so cool. I just want to see what you look like with them on. Thank you. Awesome. You look like you're right out of Star Wars now. I think it was obviously a bad thing because if it wasn't a bad thing, they wouldn't have to keep it secret, right? If you're doing what you're supposed to do, you can tell everybody. And we see how it worked out. It's all to me that was all about Anakin just wanting to control everything that he possibly could. So he has to have Padme, so he pretty much badgered her into marrying him, I feel like. And they weren't supposed to get married, so it was a secret wedding, secret marriage, and everything. So I think it was not a good thing, and I think it directly led to what happened in Revenge of the Sith. What's your take on it? What do you think?
I think it's like a bad thing because like he's not following the Jedi way.
Exactly. He's breaking the rules. All right, cool. Thank you. And
Thank
thanks for
you.
humoring me. Those glasses are really cool. I love
Thank
those.
you.
Hi.
Hi.
Do you think that Anakin would have turned to the dark side if Qui-Gon Jinn had been the one to teach him?
Oh, I think he was always destined to. But that's a great question. I've never thought about that. I think Qui-Gon would have picked up on his dark side tendencies a little faster. So maybe not. Maybe Qui-Gon could have averted it. But I think it was a prophecy. I personally believe it was a prophecy. It was going to happen one way or the other. But I think it would have been different, and I think it would have taken longer. Really good question, though. What do you think?
I think that they're so similar, like that Qui-Gon could have like helped him figure out what to do.
Right. Yeah. And he was all about the living force and being mindful of your presence and everything. So yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that one. That's a great question.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
To do one more?
Sure. I'm here. Yeah.
What do you think would have happened if Obi-Wan had enough energy to use force speed when they were what? Oh, when they were fighting in Phantom Menace, when they're fighting Darth Maul.
Oh, yeah. Why didn't he? Right. Yeah. I think that I've always thought that the reason he didn't use the force speed was because he didn't want the little energy things to close on him. But I think if he had been able to, I think it probably would have saved Qui-Gon's life. But we'll never know now. What do you think? Do you think that would have helped, or do you think it was going to happen one way or the other regardless?
Yeah, I think it probably would have helped.
Yeah, I agree. Cool glasses too. You got cool guy.
Oh, thanks.
Sure.
So Anakin, he is the chosen one, and he has the highest force sensitivity. And in the original canon, like movies, we never see his full potential because he dies in 6th episode. So if Anakin were never Darth Vader, would he be able to defeat Luke's full potential as we see in Mandalorian?
That's a great question. Yes, I think to give you the answer. What limits Anakin besides the Jedi Council is when he becomes Darth Vader. The dark side. They keep saying the dark side is the most powerful, the most powerful. Well, it really isn't. It takes the least amount of discipline. So I think if Anakin never goes to the dark side, he would be much more powerful than Luke Skywalker. So I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but also if in Legends, I mean, it's not canon, but we also
Sure.
see Darth Vader, he goes through parallels to revisit his old life, and we see that his armor completely gets taken off and his missing limbs, they turn into like force uh limbs, and he defeats everyone. And
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that is, that's not to say that Anakin with the dark side is not powerful, because as we know, with being Darth Vader, he is quite powerful. He's able to defeat the Emperor, take him by surprise, hide his feelings when that happens. So, sometimes there's a reason why things go to Legends and why they stay in canon. But I think if Anakin stays with the light side, he is by far more powerful than he is when he becomes Darth Vader, the apprentice of the Emperor.
oh yeah, that answers my question.
Awesome. Great question.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so in Revenge of the Sith, the third episode, Mace Windu tells Anakin to go back to the council room and wait there while they go confront Palpatine. Do you think if he stayed in the council room, he would have gained the respect and like gained Anakin's trust, and he would have not turned the dark side?
Well, if he stays in the council room, the whole story changes. Um, Now, to answer your question, however, I mean, our assumption is if Anakin doesn't come, Mace Windu defeats the Emperor, and so I guess so. I hadn't really thought of this. It's to speculate on things that didn't happen, but certainly I think Anakin's projection is completely different if he stays in the council room for sure, 100%.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
In The Revenge of the Sith, what are your impressions of Order 66?
When I first saw it, or now?
When you first saw it.
When I first saw it, I hate to admit it, but I might have wept just a little bit, got a little misty-eyed at the tragedy of the whole thing. Um, it, I mean, it's an awful, awful thing. It puts an end to a certain balance of power. The emperor's full plan comes into existence, and we realize what the whole thing was supposed to happen. In today's world, and I don't know how much you guys have been able to watch, but in some of the animated, we get to see some levels and layers of Order 66 that it still has the same impact, but we get a little bit of hope from it. But certainly in Revenge of the Sith, it was a very powerful moment that had huge, huge impact. What was your thought on it when it happened?
Well, I thought it was just super sad that all the Jedi just died. So
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. Thank you. Great question.
thank you.
In Revenge of the Sith, what ultimately causes Anakin to lose to Obi-Wan?
Well, I think in the movie he says, "I have the high ground." That's not the answer though. I think it's because, and this kind of goes back to the I think the first question that was asked. The dark side is extremely powerful, but it uses deception. And here, the light side of the Force is more powerful than the dark side because just of the setup. I also think Obi-Wan Kenobi is more experienced, and quite frankly, I think he's more powerful than Anakin at this point of his career. And so there's a lot of things that come down to it. And then the last item is, yes, he does have the high ground. And apparently through Jedi training, that is something that that they must know. Someone who has the high ground, you don't try to do what it is that Anakin did. And so, judgment, the ability to judgment, Anakin's mind is clouded by the dark side. Lots of reasons, but I believe it's a difference between the good and the dark.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
In Attack of the Clones, do you think Anakin slaughtering the Sand People was a turning point of him becoming to the dark side?
Oh, it certainly is one of them. Yes, indeed. It's so telling. I always share the story on the podcasts and when I talk with Star Wars people at the beginning of the Phantom Menace in the novel. Okay, the novel starts many, many chapters ahead of where the movie begins in Phantom Menace, and Anakin in the beginning of the Phantom Menace takes mercy on Sand People, and he cares for them and brings one that's mortally wounded, and he keeps and he stays with it overnight until someone can come and rescue him. So with that, and then he murders them all in that moment. Absolutely 100%. And it goes back to the whole Jedi mantra of we cannot have attachments. He's definitely he has attachment to his mom, and he has that connection. And not that that's a wrong thing or a bad thing. It's just Anakin doesn't manage that well. And so, yeah, I definitely think that is a huge, huge turning point in Anakin's turn. Great question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So in episode 1 to 3, R2D2 has like tiny boosters that let him like fly around a little bit, like hover. But then in episode 4, 5, and 6, he doesn't have them. So I'm kind of like wondering what happened between those two sagas that destroyed them or like made him not able to do it.
Yeah, you know what? That's really good observation. And I think there's two things. One is reality, and the other is what we have to put into our heads. The reality of it is when the first trilogy was created, they didn't have really the technology or the thought that R2D2 should be flying. And so they kind of had to retrofit that when they went back in time to tell the first three. So how do we make sense of that in our head? Sometimes we have to do that. In fiction, we have to kind of put things together in our heads that maybe was or was not intended by the creator. But so what I do to make sense of that is when the droids at the end of Revenge of the Sith to are sent by I forget who takes them, but Bail Organa basically says, "Take this one, erase its memory," and blah blah blah. I figured they probably did some retrofitting of R2D2 and C3PO, and so some things they had in the prequels, they just didn't have in the sequels or in the original.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
What do you think would have happened to the rebellion if Luke or Leia weren't born?
Ooh, man. Okay, this is a question I've never thought of. So give me a quick second here to think about that. I think the rebellion, I don't know that I would say they fail, but it certainly takes a lot longer for the Empire to go down. I mean, obviously, Darth Vader doesn't die. The Emperor doesn't die at least from Luke. Now, are there other Jedi out there? Of course there are. We know that there are other Jedi out there, like Ahsoka Tano, and who does get involved in the rebellion eventually. I hope that's not a spoiler for you guys. But so there are some other individuals in the galaxy that may eventually have been able to do what Luke did. But certainly it's a different story for the rebellion without Luke and Leia because of Luke's obviously Jedi ability and leadership, and then just the flat out leadership of Princess Leia. That's a big deal too. So, we could also make the argument that they would completely and utterly fail without Luke and Leia's leadership. So I don't know. It's a tough question, but it certainly is an interesting one to think about. What do you think?
I think they wouldn't I would have taken them longer to like destroy the Death Stars and stuff because Luke was the one that destroyed the first one and he used like
Yeah.
the Force and stuff to destroy it. So it would have been harder for them to do it.
That's an excellent point. Excellent point. So,
Thank
yeah.
you.
All right. Thanks. Yep.
Uh, if Mace Windu had trained Anakin, would he not fall into the dark side? And when when Mace Windu confronted Palpatine, would he have killed Palpatine there and ended the Sith?
That's interesting question. I think if Mace Windu had been his master, I think Anakin would have lost it a lot sooner. I think Mace Windu's lack of patience, and he's a lot more disciplined and aggressive, that I think Anakin would have lost his cool a lot earlier than if Obi-Wan just had an understanding of who Anakin was for lots of different reasons, partly because of the character that Obi-Wan is, and also that Obi-Wan knew Anakin as a child. So that comes into play. I definitely think if Anakin doesn't show up in that battle with the Emperor, I definitely think Mace Windu would defeat and destroy, kill the Emperor. Without it, in my mind, it's without a doubt that that happens.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey.
So with Sith, they have like Darth Vader, Darth Sidious, Darth Maul. But why is Count Dooku named Count Dooku? Oh, he is? Oh, I didn't know that.
He does have another name, but I'll tell you though, it's I would argue um um that Count Dooku is a unique individual. The Emperor gave him very specific sort of roles to play, that were, quite apprentice-like. And so I feel like of all of the apprentices that Emperor has slash had, Count Dooku was probably the most independent, which is why I would say he went by Count instead of like Darth of some point. But yeah, I would argue that he has more independence than some of the other apprentices.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Hmm.
I asked the last guy this, but who do you think the hottest character is in like the first two trilogies?
Hottest?
Yes, hottest.
Oh, I mean, without a doubt, it's Han Solo. He's a stud. The vest, he's got the looks, he falls for Leia and gives Leia the looks. It's definitely Han Solo. He's
All right.
just too cool for everybody.
Thank you. Out of the three different movie trilogies, which one would you like the most to be the DM of in a campaign?
Nice. Great question. Definitely the original trilogy. I like the places where they go in that original trilogy, like Hoth and Cloud City, and of course Tatooine. The Death Star would be a cool setting to run, to be a DM in that campaign. So I would definitely want to do the original trilogy. Another reason is I totally would want to do some type of a Western themed campaign or adventure on Tatooine. I just think that would be cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, so you know how in Jedi rule there's like no friends, no relationships, no nothing. Okay,
Yeah.
what do you think of the difference between this and like more modern superhero like rules now that's like gives you power. Friendship is
Hmm.
magic.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, okay, so a few things
Like, do you think it's right
about
in a way?
friendship. Say again?
Do you think it's like right in a way? Do you think they were right to think that way?
The Jedi?
Yeah.
You know what? It's their practices, it's their rules, it's their laws. It made sense because how much conflict is there in you when you have and you are afraid of losing things? So a Jedi, in order to be pure and to be completely selfless, you can't have belongings and things like that. Now, is that right? Is that wrong? I don't know. It worked for the Jedi for, many years. Um, however, Luke Skywalker, who we would consider to be one of the most powerful Jedi ever, and
He
without any
actually
type of
had
a
friends. So
Exactly. I was going to go to to the line that he has in Return of the Jedi, where Luke says to the Emperor, "Your overconfidence is your weakness," and the Emperor says, "Your faith in your friends is yours," which is one of my favorite quotes of all time in Star Wars. Luke had friends and still becomes one of the most powerful Jedi, and so I don't
he kind of
know.
proves the rule wrong.
He, he does
I think if
100%.
like a new huge generation comes by, they would write out that rule because of Luke.
Um, well, I mean, I guess we'll get to see that because ultimately it looks like Rey survives and she's going to start a new Jedi Order, we think. And so I guess we'll get to see if she keeps that, she burnt, Luke burned the texts. And so, she has really nothing to go by. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But I wanted to address your like modern superhero stories and themes. And the thing that I think about is, how many times does a superhero, let's take Spider-Man, for instance, his powers are limited when his friends and his family, like Mary Jane or Aunt May, are discovered that they are connected to Spider-Man in some way, then the villains go after them that make it difficult for him to be able to do his job because he's afraid for them. So I think, that's probably why it's one of the reasons why, it's not the reason, but it's one of the reasons why the Jedi were, so successful with their policy of no attachments, because the enemies could not hold a friend or an attachment over their head and make them make some sort of a moral dilemma, put them in a moral dilemma or something like that. This is a great question for lots and lots of debate, because there's a lot of things that go into the benefits of having
Maybe it was
friends.
better because his friends could actually defend themselves.
Right. Yes, that is true. What do you think? Do you think the Jedi should drop that in the future, or do you think they should Rey keep that?
It's a really strange concept because of the power levels. Like even Leia by herself, she can fight. Han, he can fight. But in the future, would the kids be able to fight? Would their friends would be? I mean, it really depends.
Hmm. Yeah,
Maybe there'd be like a huge conflict over this.
there could be. There could be. And maybe that's a lesson that Rey and the new Jedi Order will need to learn is, this whole idea of attachment versus, the benefits of having attachments and support. So, yeah, great question. Really, really good one.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Mhm.
First of all, Han Solo over Anakin is an insane take. But we obviously see how teachers are incorporating Star Wars into their lesson plans. But
Mhm.
as a librarian, how do you incorporate Star Wars into your branch?
Oh man, what a great question. That's so personal. I appreciate that. So you know, one thing that I do, so I do a couple of different things. First of all, I have a special collection in my library that is all Star Wars. I argue that it's the largest Star Wars collection in a school library in the Midwest. It probably isn't, but it would be pretty darn close. It's pretty extensive. So we've got that. Second of all, as a librarian, one of the big things that I do are I try to create programs for people to become interested in the library and the things that the library has to offer. And so I have a big event that I do every year called Steam into Star Wars, where we invite the community to come in and we use the theme of Star Wars to attract people into studying and everything from being an author to being an artist to other STEM events like robotics and stuff like that. And so I use Star Wars more as a theme to attract attention of my patrons than and I'm of course I try to push the literature as well, but that's less of a goal of mine in this instance than it is to just garner people's attention to all the things that a library would support. Yeah, thanks for that question. That's awesome.
Do you think it's right that some people compare like certain aspects of Star Wars to religion?
Oh, sure. I definitely think so. There's a lot of religious aspects to the myth, you could say. Because people do compare Star Wars to a certain mythology. There's a hero's journey, and those sorts of things. But even on a more simple side of things, certainly, a Jedi is definitely above normal human beings. And so you might give them some sort of a deity type of a feel. The Sith are just awful, evil things that are symbolic of the evil in the world. And so, yeah, I definitely think you could do some comparisons between Star Wars and religions, and I definitely think it's fair. It's literature. And so it's open to those types of interpretations when you make those. So yeah, awesome question though. Thank you.
Okay, so why do some of the stormtroopers like have different knee pad armor and some of them have like matching? Like some of the stormtroopers will have each knee is separate, like different design, and then like what's the importance of that?
I mean, the difference between like a scout trooper has certain armor versus a regular stormtrooper versus a snow trooper, that kind of thing.
Well, I yeah, yeah, pretty much
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Well, so the stormtroopers are soldiers, and so they wear different armor based on what their role is, and so a scout trooper's armor is a lot lighter and more movement because he's going to be flying along on a speeder bike, or he needs to move quickly as a quote scout. An Imperial stormtrooper, which is the one that we always think of with the white helmet and the white and black armor, they're more like soldiers in an army where they march in and things like that. In the movie Solo and in one of the most recent in Andor, there's troopers that are magnetically a bit able to connect to sides and tops of metal things and be able to maintain their balance in those areas. And so all the different armors of the stormtroopers are symbolic of not only their position in the army of the imperial, the imperial army, but they're also kind of symbolic of their roles and what they're supposed to do and what they're meant to do. So yeah, I've always thought that that's one of the cool things about stormtroopers is that they do have all those different types of armor, and things that they wear. So but it's I think it's functional as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So as we close, we just want to say thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on X, Instagram, and Facebook. Email us at readingbetweenreels@gmail.com or use the SpeakPipe app on our website. If you enjoy the show, please like, follow, subscribe, and be sure to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. This helps the show tremendously and absolutely helps us reach more people. And one last thing, our next episode continues our Star Wars series, this time with the wise and wonderful Ross Hollabin. You won't want to miss it, unless you're a Sith, in which case, carry on.